She walked out of the room, leaving me in her wake. She thought she was being kind as she gave me a hug and said, "I hope we're okay." Then she went on her way with a smile, and I was left reeling. This conversation was not what I had expected. She thought everything was fine. She couldn't be more wrong. Contest chair, and anyone who's ever wondered, what just happened? Sarah and I were the best of friends. At first, we were coworkers sitting side by side. Then we developed a bond. It began with having lunch together at work and grew to confiding in one another. I felt like I could trust her with anything, and she could trust me. She quickly became my best friend. 2 years ago, we were putting a table together for our annual Christmas party, the social event of the year, and we were emailing about who else would sit with us. She asked me if I would set aside seats for two of her teammates, Stephen and Michelle. Michelle was married. Stephen was single, and I tried to find another swinging single lady to sit with them, but to no avail. One day at work, Sarah asked me, "So, did you find a seat for Stephen at the table?" Without even thinking, the words, "He didn't make the cut," came right out of my mouth. Have you ever said something you instantly regretted? It was as if the words had come out in slow motion. He didn't make the cut. Stephen overheard. The shocked look on their faces? I walked away thinking, don't worry about it. They'll understand it was a joke. But a few days later, Sarah wanted to talk to me. And to my surprise, my best friend took me to task for my verbal miscue. It was as if she were standing up for her little brother. She took no time at all to lay into me about how rude I had been. Now I was shocked. How could this be? I felt beaten, battered, and bruised by her words. At the end of the conversation, she went on her way, having accomplished her mission, and I was left wondering, what just happened? I went home, feeling like I had committed a crime. I lay in bed that night, replaying it in my mind, over and over again. I tossed and turned to the point that my husband started to toss and turn with me, in unison. Has your mind ever been stuck on replay and you wondered what you could have done differently? I needed to apologize to Stephen, and I booked a meeting with him. Then I started to think, what was I going to say? I didn't know him all that well. How was he going to react? Was I in for another verbal confrontation? When we met, I told him why I wanted to talk to him. And then I started blurting out everything I could think of, stumbling over my words and apologizing profusely. After going through everything I could have, should have, would have done, Stephen looked at me and he said, "Deborah, where do you live?" A little taken aback, I said, "What do you mean? I live in Regina, Saskatchewan." He laughed, and then he looked me straight in the eye. "No, where do you live? Do you live in the past with the pains of what has happened, or do you live in the future of things that haven't happened yet? What's done is done. What's gone is gone. You need to move on." What's done is done. What's gone is gone. You need to move on. I hadn't thought of it that way before. Turns out, Stephen was calm, cool, and collected about the whole thing. He hadn't let what I said bother him, yet I had allowed the situation to halt, hold, and hinder my mind. Isn't that life, though, where we grant negative thoughts residence in our heads for days, weeks, even years? It instantly reminded me of my mom and how in the final years of her life, we missed out on spending time together, living in the moment. Stephen's words were a timely reminder. How about you? Where do you live? Mistakes are inevitable. We are all human beings, but it does us no good to beat ourselves up over our past miscues, whether it be a bruised relationship, a broken friendship, something that left a scar in our heart or a memory in our mind. If I hadn't had that vital conversation with Stephen, my mind would still have been stuck on replay, thinking about what I could have done differently, and I would have still been held hostage to what I could not control. Funny part is, I found out from Stephen. He has a girlfriend named Michelle. Not that Michelle, a different one. Had I known that from the very beginning, none of this would have even happened. As for my best friend, I reached out to her and we began to mend our fences. When I talked to her, she told me that she had moved on, echoing Stephen's message to me. What's done is done, what's gone is gone, you need to move on. And I realized that every moment you live in the past is a moment you waste in the present. And every moment you spend in the future is a present moment missed. Your mind doesn't have to be stuck on replay. You have the power to control your thoughts and not let them be consumed by the past or the future. Shift your focus to the now and fully embrace what is right in front of you this very hour, minute, second. The present is the only now you have. Now I ask you, where do you live? Yes, really, where do you live? Contest chair.